About 4,000 actually have been expelled under the Public Health Authority of the Centers for Disease Control. There are about 13,000 that are in immigration court proceedings. When we do not expel an individual by reason of the public health imperative, those individuals are actually placed in immigration court proceedings. They go before a judge, they can make a claim of asylum or other claim to remain in the United States. If the judge approves that claim, they are, under the law, able to remain. If the judge denies it, then they are removed from the United States.
And you're referring to the public health rule having to do with COVID, the one that the Trump administration put into effect?
Indeed, that is the case. Remember, that is a public health authority. It is not an immigration policy. It is exercised as the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, has ordered in light of the arc of the pandemic. The public has to remember that we are in the midst of a pandemic. The Delta variant caused a setback. More than 600,000 Americans have died. More than 40 U.S. Customs and Border Protection frontline personnel have lost their lives. This is a public health imperative to protect migrants themselves, local communities, our personnel, and the American public.
Right. It's called Title 42. Top Democrats in Congress want the Biden administration to stop invoking it, stop using it. Would you be open to that?
Well, it is a public health authority that is determined to be an imperative for the public health reasons that I just expressed. We made one important exception at the very outset, and that was to not apply it to unaccompanied children. There are exceptions to the application of that public health authority. The Convention Against Torture, if someone makes a legitimate claim that they would suffer torture if they're returned to the country from which they have come, if we have operational capacity constraints, or if there's an acute humanitarian need, such as an urgent medical situation.
So the Biden administration's special envoy to Haiti, Daniel Foote, he resigned this week, saying that the Biden administration's decision to deport thousands of Haitians, as you just mentioned, was, quote, inhumane and counterproductive. Now, you said Friday, quote, we do not conduct ourselves in an immoral way. But how do you respond to people who say that forcing migrants to return to a country that's dealing with political instability, widespread poverty, the aftermath of a devastating earthquake, a place that many of them haven't been in a decade, that is immoral, and that moreover, the Biden administration continuing to implement Trump-era policies that Biden and others called immoral when running for president is also immoral?
Oh, so I respectfully disagree with the envoy's position. And let me say a few things, if I may, because this administration, the Biden-Harris administration, has indeed rescinded the immoral, unethical, and cruel policies. And we are rebuilding a system that has been entirely dismantled by the prior administration. With respect to the conditions in Haiti, we studied those conditions very carefully, and we made a determination several months ago that individuals resident in the United States who were from Haiti, who were unlawfully present, could not safely return there, and therefore we granted them temporary protected status. That applied to individuals who were already here in the United States on or before July 29th. We then continued to study the conditions in Haiti, as is our responsibility, and we made a determination based upon the facts that, in fact, individuals could be safely returned to Haiti. We work closely with the Haitian government, and we have provided $5.5 million in humanitarian aid to assist in their humanitarian and safe return.
So, Mr. Secretary, many House Democrats have expressed deep concern about you and your department and how you're implementing policies. This letter from the House Oversight Committee chairwoman and several others states, quote, reports that thousands of migrants are being deported to Haiti despite turmoil in that country raises serious concerns about whether the federal government is failing to treat migrants, including those fleeing violence, political instability, and natural disasters, with respect and dignity, and affording them a meaningful opportunity to seek asylum, unquote. Do you think that asylum seekers who are fleeing violence, fleeing political instability, fleeing natural disasters, are they welcome in the United States?
They most certainly are. Remember, it is very important to remember that the Title 42 authority is a public health authority in light of the pandemic. It is not an immigration policy, nor is it an immigration policy that we would embrace. We are rebuilding our immigration system. We are rebuilding humanitarian, safe, and orderly pathways for individuals to make their claims here in the United States. We are also applying the law. In this case, it is a public health law to protect the American public, communities, and the migrants themselves. And there is much disagreement about almost everything that involves immigration in this country, but there is one thing as to which there is complete unanimity, that we are dealing with a broken immigration system. And that is why President Biden, on day one, sent a bill to Congress to once and for all fix what everyone agrees is a broken system.
So, Mr. Secretary, did I just hear you say that if Title 42, I believe it's called, which it's the health initiative, health imperative that allows DHS to expel individuals because of COVID. Did I hear you said you wouldn't welcome that? So if the Biden administration rescinded it, HHS or whoever's in charge of issuing that, that would be fine with you?
What is fine
CDC,
is that so the CDC makes its determination as experts on behalf of the public's well-being from a health perspective. If they determine that the public health imperative no longer exists and Title 42, which is a statute, is a law, need not be applied to protect people, then it will not be applied any longer.
Okay.
And we will proceed accordingly.
There's been a lot of controversy about the images of border agents on horseback addressing migrants at the border. Take a listen to what President Biden said about the investigation into those agents on horseback and how they treated the border, and what you said about that investigation into that.
I promise you, those people will pay. They will be an investigation underway now, and there will be consequences. There will be consequences.
I will not prejudge the facts. I do not in any way want to impair the integrity of the investigative process.
But, Mr. Secretary, you also said that the images, quote, horrified us. How can DHS claim to have an independent investigation into these Border Patrol agents when the president says, quote, those people will pay, and you say the images horrified us?
Jake, I think it's quite clear that what the images suggest horrified the American public. That is quite different than learning what actually happened, determining the facts, and the fact determinations will be made in an independent investigation by the Office for Professional Responsibility. And the facts that are adduced, the facts that are determined, will drive the outcome. Nothing less and nothing more.
Some of the initial descriptions.
But Jake, what those images suggest, what they appeared to portray, was horrifying, and that I think deserves attention. That is quite different than fact determinations. And I will tell you, I served as a federal prosecutor for 12 years, and we conducted independent investigations, despite what appearances might have been, and the public outcry about them.
But that's the thing. Some of the initial descriptions of those images were just patently false. There's now video out there that provides more context. Having seen the video, are you certain that there was actually wrongdoing?
I am going to let those investigators make that determination, and then that determination will drive the outcome of the investigation.
Can the Border Patrol count on you and President Biden, who has said the people will pay, to come to a determination based on the facts and not based on Twitter outrage?
They sure can. And let me say something about that, Jake, because I've worked very closely with the men and women of U.S. Customs and Border Protection for many years, many, many years. And they are heroic, what they do. And I saw their heroism displayed in Del Rio, Texas, last Monday when I was there on the ground. And that is emblematic of who they are, their commitment to this country, their talent, and tireless dedication to mission. I'm incredibly proud to work alongside them.